Now, of course, we've been reporting that stage 4 load shedding will be reduced to stage 3 rolling blackouts tonight. Earlier, Eskom had warned that there could be up to 101 days of load shedding this winter. That's more than 3 months worth, in fact. The group head of transmission yesterday said Eskom expects between 37 and 101 days of load shedding, with the latter being an extreme case scenario. The power utility has, however, said that load shedding is unlikely to escalate to stage 6. To discuss, we're joined by energy analyst and advisor Ted Blom. Mr. Blom, thank you for being with us. So there's technically only 92 days in winter from June to the end of August. So presumably Eskom means the cold period that seems to have started. The only hope is that we won't reach stage 6. Do you agree that, we're clinging to hope here? We're in a very dire situation.
No, absolutely. It's unacceptable that South Africans are again facing load shedding at this level, or any load shedding for that matter. The facts of the matter are that Eskom has not been transparent with the outlook for load shedding. The upgrade from 60-odd days to 100 days happened inadvertently because they had a novice online when they did the press briefing. And it seems to me he had a slip of the tongue and he divulged more than he probably was authorized to do. But that's now a fact. But if you go to the Eskom own maintenance schedule, which is not a publicly widely distributed document. If you look at that and you look for the year ahead, in other words, for April 2023, on their own schedule, they got different scenarios. And in the one scenario, the main scenario, the most likely scenario, there's only 5 weeks of no load shedding. So there's 47 weeks of a high probability of load shedding in the next year. If you go to their worst case scenario, there's red all over for every week of the next year. So I'm not very confident when Eskom tells me there won't be further load shedding, or that it won't be a higher level, or that the risk isn't higher.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the risk is higher. The risk is the highest in the 99-year history of Eskom.
Why wouldn't they be transparent? Because when it's worse than they've said, like you said, here was a slip of a tongue, so we get this 100 days, then we're going to challenge them. We've challenged the CEO before. Do you know what's going on? Why wouldn't they be transparent about the information they have on hand?
Well, I think you must ask that question to Eskom's leadership, why they keep on playing smoke and mirrors with the public. Them and I have had this debate previously about transparency or lack of transparency, or to be blunt, plain lies from Eskom when it comes to admitting where we are in terms of risk profiles and load shedding and misreporting of the level of load shedding. I caught them out on a sister station or another station where they were underreporting the load shedding. The rules are very clear. Up to 1,000 megawatts is level 1. Above 1,000 to 2,000 is level 2. Eskom consistently goes over the so-called threshold, but still sticks to the lower level of load shedding when they announce the load shedding, somebody's lying to somebody. And you know what? It's time that the regulator steps up, because it's now been quite a while since there's been a new regulator. The regulator has undertaken to do an audit on Eskom's assets, which they're claiming money on from you and me and the public. That hasn't been done. And Eskom's regulator also needs to check on whether the load shedding is actually as stated, because I've had some serious Eskom clients, some high energy users, come to me and say to me, can I please review the actual load shedding that's taken place over the last 10 or 12 years compared to what has been announced by Eskom, and see why there's a discrepancy, because even they, the heavy user customers of Eskom, feel that they've been cheated by Eskom.
All right, there's obviously a lack of trust from your side on what's being said. What about what's being done? Some of what is going on is linked to state capture, things that have gone on in the past. Many parastatals were crippled, and we're seeing that it's a very long road to recovery. Can we continue to give the executive and the board, the managers, some leeway because of the past, or not?
Well, at the end of the day, all we can do, because of the lack of transparency and the lack of representation on the Eskom board as such, which is different to what it was prior to 2001 when Eskom was captured by the government, never mind state capture. But the fact of the matter is Eskom's own leadership, when they started the job 2.5 years ago, said they will sort out the load shedding within 18 months. I said it was ambitious, not possible, but I welcomed the idea that they're going to do refurbishment of the fleet, and I doubted whether they were going to get the OEM warranties, which they bragged they were going to procure. I said only a novice can talk that type of language. Nobody gives you a guarantee on something that's been misused and abused for 20 years. But now they've gone and they've had a policy change, which they haven't announced, and they haven't consulted the public. And I think it's beyond their purview to do these policy changes. But we've had the CEO come out and say, no, he's no longer going to refurbish the fleet, as he's undertaken to do previously. He thinks it's better value for money to take that money and actually invest it in renewables. So that's a major policy change. And the fact of the matter is his own executive have come out publicly now because the situation at Eskom has been unbearable for them, where they stated that they are hamstrung in doing the maintenance that is required to be done, primarily for budgetary reasons. The budget either not available or the money is only made available much later than what it's needed, etc. So, I mean, and then Eskom boasts about repaying 82 billion rands worth of debt when their coupon is only 40 billion rands a year. So the extra money could have gone into fixing up and doing and catching up the arrear maintenance, etc. But they boast about doing accelerated debt repayments, and then we sit with the babies when the maintenance hasn't been done. On Sunday, 53% of Eskom's coal availability was down. It's offline, not available. You cannot run a business when half the capacity is not available for consumption or for usage or whatever you want.
Well, Eskom has spoken about the rain. After 5 days, the coal gets very wet. This is something as South Africans, we've scratched our heads. Why can't you keep the coal dry? But I guess we don't understand the scale of the storage. Is that fair enough that the rain is wreaking havoc?
No, absolutely not. It's a nonsense excuse, and it's again points to incompetence at Eskom, misinformation. If rain was such a problem, then the UK would have load shedding virtually for 290 days every single year, because they have a hell of a lot more rain than we have. The fact of the matter is, it's a procurement by Eskom of coal that's below spec. They're buying duff, which has no commercial value, and it's like Johnson's baby powder. And when it gets wet, it's messy and unmanageable. That is not what Eskom traditionally has bought, and it's outside of the Eskom spec. Eskom normally buys a 0x50 sized coal, and that doesn't give you any problems in the rain. It actually does very well in the rain. And if they'd stuck to their own procurement parameters and regulations, they wouldn't have this nonsense. This story about wet coal is just a deflection and a lie, because it's actually not true. If it is true, they must take the blame for it, because it's clearly then a transgression of their own specifications.
Sure. So I guess the upshot is prepare for many days of load shedding. Thank you for your take. That was energy analyst and advisor Ted Blom.